Riley wasn't exactly looking for a secret society. She was mostly looking for her next shift at the local diner, which felt like a secret society of burnt coffee and questionable life choices. Summer vacation was dragging. Her friends were all away at camp or exotic beaches. And Riley was stuck in her small town, feeling about as exciting as a soggy cracker. One sweltering Tuesday, after a particularly grueling shift, serving lukewarm fries, Riley decided to take the long way home. Her usual route took her past the gas station and the dry cleaners. Today, she veered off down a dusty side street she'd never really noticed before, lined with brick buildings that looked like they'd forgotten the decade they were in. Red, seeking those with open hearts, curious minds. THE, truth, ISO. UT, there, THE, proof, ISE. FOR, enlighten. For HE, proof, ELF, 7PF, gon RL8. MySK, FOR, ease. Ask for Elvis, she muttered, a tiny smirk playing on her lips. Is this a joke? Is Elvis selling spiritual enlightenment? Now, she knew the legends, of course. Elvis sightings, the whole he's still alive thing. It was all pretty silly, a relic of an older time. But something about the flyer snagged her attention. It wasn't trying to trick you or scare you, it was just there eerie. What did that even mean? And Blue Suede Mystery? Was it a club? A cult? A very niche Elvis fan group? She looked at her watch. It was 6:45 p.m. and it was Tuesday. Well, she thought, shrugging, what else do I have to do? Watch another rerun of The Office. Willow Creek Lane was a nondescript brownstone set back from the street, partially hidden by an overgrown oak tree. No signs, no flashy lights, just a heavy wooden door with a brass knocker shaped like a lion's head. Riley hesitated. This felt less like a quirky fan club and more like something out of a mystery novel. Her cynical side screamed at her to turn around. Her bored side, however, pushed her hand forward to knock. The door opened almost immediately, revealing a woman with startlingly kind eyes and hair the color of spun silver. She wore a simple flowing tunic and a serene smile. She looked like she belonged in a meditation retreat, not a dusty old house in a forgotten part of town. "Hello," Riley asked, feeling suddenly awkward. "Hi, I saw the flyer." The woman's smile widened. "Ah, yes, the flyer. Welcome, dear one. We were hoping someone new would find their way to us tonight." She stepped aside, gesturing for Riley to enter. "My name is Clara, and you must be curious." The air was cool and smelled faintly of incense and old books. The interior wasn't what she expected. Not a dingy basement, not a room plastered with Elvis posters. It was a large, circular room with plush cushions on the floor, soft lighting from lanterns, and shelves overflowing with books, instruments, and what looked like ancient scrolls. In the center, a small circular stage held a single surprisingly ornate microphone stand. About 10 or so people were already gathered sitting on the cushions. They ranged in age from what looked like her own age, though no one else her age, to people who could be her grandparents. They all had the same calm, welcoming expressions. As "Clara, please find a seat," Clara said, gently closing the door behind Riley. "Make yourself comfortable." Riley awkwardly chose a cushion near the back, feeling like she'd stumbled into a private event. No one seemed to mind her presence. In fact, a woman with bright blue glasses gave her a small, encouraging nod. Clara moved to the center of the room, standing beside the microphone. "Stand." The air grew quiet, expectant. "Friends, welcome." Clara's voice was soft, but carried easily. "And a special welcome to our new guest." She looked directly at Riley, and for a moment Riley felt a strange warmth spread through her chest. Not heat, but a comforting glow. "Tonight, we continue our journey," Clara began. "A journey not just of understanding, but of experience. As our flyer states, the truth is out there, and the proof for those with eyes to see and hearts to feel is eerie. Riley's eyebrows shot up. This was it. This was where it got weird. She waited for the punchline, for the offer to buy a special crystal, for something to confirm her suspicion that this was all. Just a slightly more elaborate version of a scam, but Clara just smiled, her eyes twinkling. Many believe enlightenment is a path for monks in distant mountains, for saints in ancient texts. We believe it can be found in the most unexpected places, even in the heart of a rock and roll legend. The room was silent. No one laughed. No one scoffed. They simply listened, their faces rapt. Elvis Presley, Clara said, her voice dropping slightly, filled with reverence. He was more than a singer, more than a cultural icon. He was a seeker, a spiritual warrior in blue suede shoes. And we, the Harmonious Echoes, are here to tell his true story. Riley blinked. This was wild Elvis Presley enlightened. Her mind conjured images of sequined jumpsuits and gyrating hips. Not exactly the typical path to spiritual awakening. Yet the atmosphere in the room was so genuine, so utterly without pretense, that her cynicism for a fleeting moment wavered. Tonight, Clara continued, her gaze sweeping over the small gathering, we begin to explore the first E of eerie, the essence, the undeniable energy he left behind, the feeling that resonates still for those attuned to it. Riley shifted on her cushion, a mix of skepticism and a strangely potent curiosity swirling within her. What exactly was she getting herself into? And what, she wondered, did essence even mean? This was definitely more intriguing than soggy crackers. Riley found herself staying, despite the alarm bells that usually went off when people started talking about energy and essences. Clara had a way of speaking that was both gentle and compelling, like a warm wave pulling you further out to sea. The essence, Clara explained, her voice a soft murmur in the quiet room, is not something you see, but something you feel. It's the lingering vibration, the unique frequency of a being's true self. And Elvis, in his journey, cultivated an essence of immense power and peace. Riley frowned. So, like a ghost, she blurted out, then immediately regretted it. The phrase sounded childish and disrespectful in the solemn atmosphere. Clara chuckled softly. Not a ghost, dear one. A resonance. Think of a bell, even after it's struck. And the sound fades, the bell still holds the potential for that sound. Its very material structure vibrates with the memory of it. Elvis, to his music, his life, and his personal spiritual practice, became a bell of profound harmony. A man with a neatly trimmed beard who introduced himself as Arthur spoke up. We believe that as Elvis delved deeper into various spiritual texts and practices from gospel to Eastern philosophies, he began to refine his own internal vibration. He didn't just sing about love. He became an embodiment of it. Riley still wasn't entirely convinced. She'd heard of people being good vibrations or whatever, but this sounded like they were saying Elvis was some kind of spiritual battery. How do you feel this essence? Riley asked, trying to keep her tone neutral. Clara smiled. Through various means. But tonight we will begin with a simple exercise. We will listen, not just with our ears, but with our entire being. She walked over to a small, antique-looking record player in the corner of the room. It had a large horn speaker, unlike any modern stereo Riley had ever seen. Clara carefully placed a high mic record on the turntable. It looked old, worn. This, Clara said, is a recording not widely known. It was made in the very early hours of a morning in Memphis, 1968. Elvis. It was a single sustained note played on what sounded like a low-frequency synthesizer or an organ, accompanied by the gentle strumming of an acoustic guitar. No vocals, just a rich undulating sound. Riley closed her eyes, trying to focus polls. Her mind started to wander to her diner shift to the smell of grease. But then, as the hum continued, something shifted. It wasn't loud, but it seemed to fill the space, seeping into the very air she breathed. She started to feel calm, not just a casual calm, but a deep, pervasive stillness. The nagging anxiety about her future, the boredom, the mild irritation from her shift, it all seemed to recede, replaced by a quiet sense of peace. Her body felt light, almost floating. It was like her thoughts, usually buzzing like a beehive, had suddenly settled. She wasn't sure how long they sat there enveloped in the sound. Minutes, an hour, time seemed to lose its meaning. All she was aware of was the hum, the gentle guitar, and this profound sense of well-being that was entirely new to her. When Clara gently lifted the needle, the silence that followed was palpable. It wasn't just the absence of sound, it was the lingering echo of that peace. Riley opened her eyes slowly. The light in the room seemed softer, the colors richer. The faces of the other members looked serene, their eyes bright. "That," Clara said softly, "is the essence, a fragment of the frequency Elvis cultivated many of his unreleased or lesser known. Wicorni en Krisen, Prisen." Her skepticism hadn't vanished entirely, but it had certainly taken a serious hit. How could a simple hum do that? What was that?" she whispered, her voice feeling strangely fragile. Arthur leaned forward. "That was a very carefully calibrated sound, dear Riley. It resonates with the inherent harmony within us all. Elvis discovered these frequencies, not just by chance, but through dedicated study. He used his art, his incredible platform, not just to entertain, but to transmit something deeper. We believe this was his ultimate purpose, to raise the vibration of the world through his own personal enlightenment." Riley thought about her. It suddenly made more sense. They weren't talking about Elvis the human being, the man who ate too many peanut butter sandwiches. They were talking about Elvis, the vessel, the channel, the transmitter of something profound, so eerie. Riley mused aloud. The first E is essence. What are the others? Clara's eyes sparkled. "Ah, that, my dear, is a story for another Tuesday. But for now, experience the peace. Let it settle within you. This is just the beginning of the journey to understand the King of spiritual insight." Riley felt a small smile form on her lips. She wasn't sure she believed in enlightened Elvis yet, but she definitely believed in that hum. And for the first time in a long time, she felt a flicker of genuine excitement, a sense that maybe, just maybe, her summer wouldn't be so soggy after all. Riley returned the following Tuesday, and the one after that. The hum had lingered, a subtle undercurrent of calm in her otherwise ordinary life. She started noticing the small everyday stresses less, and the small everyday joys more. It was a strange and unexpected side effect. This week, Clara promised, they would delve into the second E of eerie. The echoes. If the essence is the underlying vibration, Clara explained, then the echoes are the subtle messages, the hidden wisdom embedded within Elvis's most famous and sometimes most obscure recording spore. She knew Elvis's hits like the back of her hand, thanks to her mom's obsession. "You mean like hidden messages if you play them backwards?" she asked, a smirk creeping onto her face. She'd heard of that urban legend. Clara laughed, a warm tinkling sound. "Not quite, dear one. More sophisticated than that. Think of it as musical tapestry, layers of sound, specific lyrical choices, even the pauses between notes, all designed to resonate on multiple levels." Arthur brought out a stack of old records. Many of Elvis's later gospel recordings, for example, are quite overt in their spiritual messages. But even in his early rock and roll, there are glimpses we believe he was intuitively tapping into universal truths, even before he consciously pursued them. We're going to listen to "Can't Help Falling in Love." A classic, yes, but listen with new ears. The emotional resonance in how the music itself creates a pathway to higher understanding. She placed the record on the old phonograph. The familiar opening chords filled the room. Riley closed her eyes, trying to clear her mind, to listen without prejudice. Wise men say only fools rush in. As Elvis's voice, smooth as velvet, filled the room, Riley focused on the nuances, the gentle swell of the strings, the steady, unwavering beat of the bass. It was a love song. Sure. But the way he sang, "But I can't help falling in love with you." It wasn't just romantic longing. It was something deeper, more universal. A feeling of profound acceptance, of surrender to an undeniable force. "Notice the melody?" Clara whispered, her voice barely audible over the music. Simple, repetitive. Like a mantra, it's designed to quiet the mind, to invite a meditative state. Then came the chorus again, and Riley felt a familiar warmth spread through her chest, not unlike the feeling from the essence. This wasn't just music, it was something else. It was like the song itself was hugging her, telling her everything would be okay. "Shall I stay? Would it be a sin if I can't help falling in love with you?" The lyrics, too, Arthur added. To her, it was just a song from her grandma's wedding, but now she heard it differently. The yearning, the vulnerability, the complete surrender. It could easily be applied to a spiritual awakening. They listened to a few more songs. A gospel track where Elvis's voice soared, not just with devotion, but with an almost otherworldly joy. And then a lesser-known B-side, a melancholic tune where the guitar seemed to weep. "This one at my way, Clayter coined imace tame is a perfecus." The lyrics speak of loneliness, and circ singi matially. And then at the end of the solo, there was a tiny, almost imperceptible pause, followed by a single clear note that seemed to hang in the air, full of hope. "That note," Clara said, pointing a finger at the antique speaker, "that's the echo of his emerging understanding. A single clear note amidst the confusion, pointing towards the path." Riley was fascinated. She wasn't sure if it was intentional or if the Harmonious Echoes were just really good at finding meaning where none existed. But the experience of listening to these songs with their guidance was undeniably powerful. It felt like unlocking a secret language she'd always heard, but never understood. After the session, Riley stayed behind helping Clara put away the records. "Clara," Riley began, "when you say Elvis was emblading these things, do you really think he planned it like, 'I'm going to put a spiritual awakening in my love song'?" Clara smiled, her silver hair shimmering in the soft light. "Perhaps not consciously at first. Genius often operates on an intuitive level. He was a deeply sensitive soul, exposed to a wide ranges. As he grew, as his personal search intensified, we believe these echoes became more deliberate. He was communicating his truth in the only way he knew how, through his music. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, secretly a spiritual guru. The king of intuitive spiritual insight, perhaps," Clara corrected gently. "And the proof is simply the feeling it evokes within you, dear one. Didn't you feel it tonight?" Riley nodded slowly. The music heard through this new lens had stirred something within her. It wasn't just a catchy tune anymore. It was a whisper from another time, another soul echoing a journey. She was just beginning to understand. "So next week, the raw?" Riley asked, a genuine eagerness in her voice. Clara's eyes twinkled. She found herself humming "Can't Help Falling in Love." But this time she wasn't just humming the tune. She was humming the feeling, the deep, abiding peace she'd found hidden within its familiar melody. The echoes were indeed very real. The next Tuesday, Riley practically bounced into the Harmonious Echoes meeting place. The previous sessions had cracked open something inside her. The hum of the essence and the layers within the echoes had made her look at the world differently, seeing connections she'd never noticed before. Now she was ready for the hour of ear. Revelations. Clara was already waiting. a large, worn, leather-bound book resting on a stand at the center of the room. It looked ancient, almost sacred. "Tonight," Clara announced, her voice filled with a quiet thrill, "we move beyond the sonic. We delve into the written word, the private thoughts, the very personal journey of a man seeking truth. Tonight we examine the revelations." Riley's eyes were fixed on the book. "Is that Elvis's diary?" "Parts of it. A collection of his personal notes, jottings, poems, even some sketches. These documents were never intended for public consumption. They were discovered by one of our founding members, a dedicated archaist who understood their profound significance." Clara gestured to the book. Elvis was a voracious reader, particularly in his later years. He devoured books on religion, philosophy, and spirituality. But he didn't just read. He pressed concepts into his own life, his own understanding. She gently opened the book. Pages were yellowed, some filled with elegant script, others with hurried scrawls. Clara pointed to a specific page. "Here," she said, "is an entry from 1971. Elvis writes, 'The light I seek is not in the flashbulb, but in the quiet of the soul. The true stage is within, where the greatest performance is self-mastery.'" Riley's jaw dropped. Didn't sound like the Elvis from the movies. The one always chasing fame and women. This was profound. "It shows his growing disillusionment with the external world of celebrity," Arthur explained. "He was searching for something more enduring, something that couldn't be taken away by album sales or audience applause." Clara turned another page. "Here's a poem, undated but clearly from his spiritual peak. The melody of truth, a whisper in the blue. Unites the fragment youth and shines the spirit through. No costume grand, no roaring crowd, just stillness, pure and bright, a peace that parts the stormy cloud and fills the soul with light." "Blue Suede Mystery," Riley murmured, connecting the dots to the flyer. "It's right there." "Indeed," Clara confirmed. He often used terms from his public life, blue suede melodies, stages as metaphors for his inner journey. He was using language he knew to express concepts he was just beginning to grasp. They spent the next hour poring over selected entries. There were diagrams that looked almost like mandalas with concentric circles and symbols that Riley vaguely recognized from books on Eastern spirituality. There were notes about meditation techniques, about the interconnectedness of all life. One entry in particular resonated deeply with Riley. It was a short, almost frantic paragraph. "The loneliness of the journey is immense. To walk a path few understand, to feel the pull of the divine, while the world clamors for the profane. But the whisper grows louder. The light, though distant, grows brighter." That feeling of being different, of searching for something more when everyone else seemed content with the surface. She hadn't articulated it to herself before, but reading Elvis's words, she felt a profound connection. It was as if he, the legendary Elvis, understood her own quiet struggles. He struggled, Clara affirmed, as if reading Riley's thoughts. Enlightenment is not a destination, but a continuous unfolding. It is often a solitary path. Even for someone surrounded by millions, these revelations show his human vulnerability, his doubts, and ultimately his unwavering commitment to his spiritual quest. Arthur added, "Imagine the pressure he was under, to maintain his public persona, to fulfill the expectations of millions, while simultaneously pursuing such a deeply personal and unconventional." One was a detailed drawing of what looked like a complex energetic diagram, almost like a blueprint for inner peace. It was meticulous, filled with annotations. This wasn't some casual doodler. This was someone utterly dedicated to understanding, something profound. "These aren't just musings," Riley said, her voice filled with awe. "These are like blueprints for enlightenment." Clara nodded, her smile soft. "Precisely, these revelations, when combined with the essence and the echoes, paint a picture of a man who was intentionally, earnestly, and systematically pursuing a higher state of consciousness. He wasn't just dabbling. As the session ended, Riley felt a profound shift in her perception of Elvis. He was no longer just the hip-shaking icon. He was a complex, searching soul, burdened by fame, yet driven by an insatiable hunger for truth. His journey, as revealed in these private notes, was startlingly relatable. Walking home, Riley found herself reflecting on her own path. She hadn't realized she was searching for anything until she found the Harmonious Echoes. But now, seeing Elvis's journey laid bare, she recognized a glimmer of that same hunger within herself. The revelations weren't just about Elvis. They were, in a strange and beautiful way, about her too. King, in his quiet moments, had unknowingly left her a guide. And she was eager to see what the next piece of the eerie puzzle would reveal. The discovery of Elvis's personal revelations had cemented Riley's belief. This wasn't just a quirky society. It was a group dedicated to preserving and understanding a truly remarkable hidden history. Her curiosity had transformed into genuine intrigue and a burgeoning sense of wonder. This Tuesday, Clara promised to unveil the eye of eerie iridescence. We've explored the subtle vibrations of his essence, the hidden wisdom in his echoes, and the profound insights in his revelations. Clara began her voice, resonating with quiet anticipation. Now we come to a tangible manifestation of his spiritual progress, an object that through its unique properties reflects the elevated state of his consciousness. Riley looked around the room. There was no obvious display case or pedestal. The other members sat with a similar sense of hushed expectation. Arthur, with a slight flourish, produced a small velvet-covered box from a locked cabinet. He placed it carefully on a central stand. The air in the room seemed to thicken, charged with an almost electric stillness. This object, Arthur said, his voice low, was Elvis's most prized possession. In his later years, it rarely left his side. It was not a piece of jewelry for show. But an hour slowly opened the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of dark velvet, was a ring. But it wasn't just any ring. It was a large silver ring, intricate in its design, with a single unusually large stone at its center. The stone wasn't a diamond or a ruby or any gem Riley recognized. It seemed to shimmer with an inner light, catching and refracting the soft lantern light in a myriad of shifting colors: blues, greens, purples, golds, imperceptible glow. "It's beautiful," Riley whispered, mesmerized. "This is not a conventional gemstone," Clara explained, her gaze fixed on the ring. "It's a unique, crystalline structure discovered in a remote, sacred site in the Himalayas. Elvis acquired it through a trusted spiritual guide he befriended in the early 70s. He spent countless hours meditating with it, holding it, allowing its natural energetic properties to align with his own. It absorbed Elvis's refined energy, his cultivated essence, and now it reflects it." Riley cautiously reached out a hand, drawn to the radiant object. The other members watched in silence. As her fingertips hovered above the ring, she felt a distinct warmth emanating from it, a gentle hum that seemed to echo the essence she'd experienced in the first session. "When Elvis wore this ring," Clara continued, "it was said that he experienced heightened states of clarity, profound insights, and an almost indescribable sense of peace. It became a focal point for his meditation, a tangible marker." As she held it up, the colors intensified, swirling and dancing within the stone. It wasn't a cheap trick of light. It was as if the stone itself was alive, breathing in the soft light of the room and exhaling pure, vibrant color. "The iridescence is a mirror," Arthur explained, "a mirror of his soul's journey. The more profound his enlightenment, the more luminous. When he was truly centered, truly connected, the stone would glow with a steady, pure white light, representing ultimate unity." Riley felt a shiver run down her spine. This was something tangible, something she could see and almost feel. The ring pulsed with an energy that was undeniable, So, it glows because of his enlightenment? Riley asked, trying to grasp the concept. Not in a magical special effects way. Think of it more like biofeedback or a highly sensitive energy meter. This crystal interacts with subtle human energy fields. Elvis, through his disciplined practice, refined his own energetic signature. Even with the lid closed, Riley could almost feel its subtle warmth. This object, Clara concluded, serves as physical evidence. It connects the dots between his inner work and a tangible, observable phenomenon. It suggests that his spiritual journey was not merely theoretical, but had a symbol of his radiant, immaculate existence. Riley understood. The eye in Eerie wasn't just about Elvis's journey. It was about the proof of it. The ring wasn't just a pretty bauble. It was a living back, humming with the echoes of a transformed soul. Walking home, Riley kept thinking about the ring. It felt like something out of a legend, yet it was real. Sitting in a velvet box in a quiet room on Willow Creek Lane, she found herself looking at her own plain silver ring, a gift from her grandmother. It felt cold, inanimate. But what if, she wondered, through her own quiet practices, she could imbue it with a little bit of her own evolving energy? What if her own inner state could reflect outwards? The Harmonious Echoes weren't just telling her a story about Elvis. They were showing her a possibility for herself. Possibility of a different kind of life, one less about what you had or what you did, and more about who you were becoming. And the iridescent ring, shimmering in her mind's eye, was a beacon on that path. Riley's summer was no longer dragging. It was surging forward, propelled by a newfound purpose. She was spending more and more time at 14 Willow Creek Lane, helping Clara and Arthur organize their archives, learning about different spiritual traditions, and simply basking in the warm Sepichan. This week, the subject was the final E of Eerie Eternity. But before delving into that, Clara wanted to emphasize a crucial bridge between all the elements, interconnection. This was, in a way, the hidden truth binding the other pieces together. We've explored essence, echoes, revelations, and iridescence, Clara began, addressing the now familiar circle of faces, including Riley, who sat front and center. Each piece offers compelling evidence of Elvis's profound spiritual journey. But these pieces are not isolated. They are deeply interconnected, woven together by a central understanding that Elvis himself cultivated. Arthur held up a large, intricate tapestry woven with threads into a single cohesive design. Think of it like this tapestry, he explained. Each thread represents a person, an experience, an insight in Elvis's life. His spiritual teachers, his fellow musicians, even his fans, they all contribute to his growth, and in turn he influenced them. He didn't achieve any connectedness with the world around him. Clara nodded. Elvis understood that true enlightenment wasn't about isolating oneself from the world, but about fully engaging. Quals in passion. His music, his presence, through the echoes in his music, they Morris. It's that concert. It's not just a performance. It's as morph that's. I say use. We have hundreds of these letters from people who attended his concerts, wrote to him, or simply felt profoundly moved by his music. They speak of inexplicable feelings, of peace, sudden bursts of joy, even moments of clarity. Riley felt a lump in her throat. This was the real power, not just for Elvis, but for everyone he touched. He also consciously sought out other seekers, Clara continued. He formed a small private circle of spiritual friends and teachers. These were the true harmonious echoes of his time. Long before we formally organized, they supported his journey, and he supported theirs. Arthur displayed photographs of Elvis with various unassuming individuals, A quiet-looking, elderly woman, a man with a flowing beard, a university professor. These were his mentor, his confidants, people who didn't care about his fame, only about his soul. They helped him decipher the revelations he was receiving. They helped him understand the properties of the iridescent stone, and they helped him ground his essence. He was also a catalyst. He encouraged others to seek their own truth, to look beyond the superficial. His life in its entirety became a living example of the search for enlightenment, even when that search was messy and imperfect. Riley thought about the anonymous flyer she'd found. The phrase, "seeking those with open hearts and curious minds." It wasn't just about Elvis. It was about continuing his legacy, creating new interconnection. So the interconnection, Riley mused, is about how he wasn't just enlightened for himself, but how he spread it, shared it, and how others helped him get there. Clara smiled warmly. Precisely. Dear one, true enlightenment is never isolate. It's about recognizing we are all part of a larger tapestry. When one thread shines brightly, it illuminates the threads around it. Elvis, by fully embracing his interconnectedness, allowed his light to touch millions, preparing the way for future generations to continue the search. As the session drew to a close, Riley felt a profound sense of gratitude. She wasn't just learning about Elvis, she was learning about the nature of humanity, the power of connection, and the potential for every person to be a beacon of light. The Harmonious Echoes weren't just a society, they were a living testament to that very principle of inter-re-awe. Riley, she felt a deep sense of belonging, a warmth that transcended the simple act of attending a meeting. She was part of something bigger, something that stretched beyond the life of one iconic singer, into the timeless realm of shared human experience. And the next step, the final eternity, felt like a powerful promise for the future. Riley had found her place. The Harmonious Echoes were no longer a peculiar curiosity. They were her community, her mentored, and her friends. She felt a lightness in her step, a clarity in her thoughts that had been absent before. Her cynical shell was melting away, replaced by a genuine sense of wonder. This week, Clara gathered the group, her face alight with a quiet joy. Tonight, we've reached the culmination of our exploration of Erie. We connect all the threads, we step into the final eternity. Riley's heart beat a little faster. This was it. The ultimate proof. Eternity, Clara explained, is not merely about endlessness of truth, the enduring legacy of a soul that has achieved profound liberation. It is about how Elvis's enlightenment continues to resonate, not just as a historical fact, but as a living, breathing influence in the present moment. Arthur lit a series of candles around the room, casting dancing shadows. The air grew still, expectant. We've seen the essence, felt the echoes, read the revelations, and witnessed the iridescence, Arthur said, his voice deep and calm. Each of these elements points to a profound truth. Elvis Presley reached a state of conscious unity, an enlightened awareness. But how does that affect us, here and now? Clara gestured to the center of the room where the ornate microphone stand still stood. We believe that Elvis, through his disciplined spiritual work, created a powerful energetic vortex, a point of access to that enlightened state. His final years, though publicly challenging, were internally a period of immense speed. The eternity of his enlightenment, she continued, is not just a memory, it's a frequent for awakening that he left for all of us. And tonight we will attempt to connect with that frequency directly. Riley swallowed. This sounded intense. Clara moved to the microphone stand. Instead of a microphone, however, there was a small polished wooden box attached to the top. From the box, a thin, almost invisible filament extended, connecting to a small intricate crystal at the center of the room, a crystal that looked strikingly similar to the one in Elvis's iridescent ring, though slightly larger. This, Clara explained, placing her hands on the wooden box, is a specially constructed resonance chamber. It was designed by Elvis himself. Working with his spiritual typhus, it's calibrated, drawing upon the residual energy of the iridescent crystal and the insights from his revelations. Arthur took out a small, unassuming cassette tape. "And this," he said, "is the final, unreleased recording, made days before his passing, but pure tones, the culmination of his sonic research." Into enlightenment, Riley's mind reeled. Days before his passing, Clara instructed everyone to sit comfortably, close their eyes, and focus on their breath. The room fell silent, save for the gentle flicker of the candles. Then Arthur pressed play. A low, sustained hum filled the room. Familiar from the first session, but richer, deeper, multi-layered. It pulsed not just in the air, but seemingly within Riley's own body. It was joined by other subtle tones, intertwining, weaving a complex sonic tapestry. As the sounds washed over her, Riley felt an incredible sensation. It was as if every cell in her body was vibrating in harmony. The feeling of peace from the first session intensified, deepening into a profound sense of unity. She felt connected, not just to the people in the room, but to everything. The floor, the walls, the very air. It all felt like an extension of herself, and then she saw it not with her eyes, but with her inner vision. A brilliant, pure white light emanating from the crystal in the center of the room. It wasn't a harsh light, but soft, pervasive, filled with an indescribable love. It expanded, filling her entire being, dissolving the boundaries between herself and the light. In that light she felt a profound presence, not Elvis the celebrity, but Elvis the consciousness. A feeling of immense compassion, of boundless joy, of unwavering peace. It was as if he was there, not as a ghost, but as a resonant field of pure, benevolent energy. It was the radiant, immaculate existence the flyer had hinted at. Thoughts, fears, doubts, they all evaporate. There was only this moment, this light, this sense of absolute rightness. She understood, truly understood, what enlightenment meant, not a goal, but a state of being. A state of interconnected love. It felt like an eternity and a single heartbeat all at once. Slowly the sounds began to recede, the light softened, and the profound sensation gently faded, leaving behind an afterglow of serene calm. Arthur gently pressed stop on the recorder. The room was utterly silent. No one moved. The air still vibrated with a subtle energy. They felt clear, as if she was seeing the world for the first time. The faces of the other members were illuminated, not just by candlelight, but by an inner glow. Their eyes were bright with understanding, with peace. "That," Clara whispered, her voice husky with emotion, "is the eternity of his enlightenment. His final gift, his enduring presence. He didn't just achieve it for others." Riley couldn't speak. She didn't need to. She just knew. All the pieces of Eerie had come together, not as a logical argument, but as an experiential truth. She had felt it. She had seen it. She had connected with the radiant, enduring consciousness of Elvis Presley, and in doing so she had connected with something profound within herself. The journey, she realized, was only just beginning. The experience of connecting with Elvis's eternity had profoundly changed Riley. It wasn't just a fleeting feeling. It had imprinted itself on her very being. Constant hum of peace, the clarity of thought, the sense of interconnectedness, these were no longer just concepts, but lived realities. She felt lighter, more alive, and more purposeful than ever before. The Harmonious Echoes session had ended in a quiet, shared understanding. No need for words. Everyone in the room had experienced something similar, a moment of profound communion. Riley had seen it in their eyes, in the gentle smiles exchanged, in the lingering, quiet joy that filled the room. In the days that followed, Riley found that the ripple effect of her experience was subtle but undeniable. Little things that used to bother her seemed trivial now. The rude customer at the diner, the endless pile of dirty dishes, the persistent summer boredom, they all seemed to fade into the background. She approached everything with a newfound patience and kindness. Her conversations with her family shifted. Instead of grumbling about her lack of summer plans, she found herself talking about the beauty of an old song, the unexpected wisdom in a quiet moment, the fascinating history of an ordinary-looking building. Her mom, usually dismissive of weird spiritual stuff, actually listened, captivated by Riley's calm enthusiasm. She even found herself drawn to music more deeply. Not just Elvis's songs, but all music. She listened for the underlying rhythm, the emotional currents, the subtle messages she'd once overlooked. Every song became a potential echo, a hidden revelation waiting to be discovered. One afternoon, while sorting through some old files at the Harmonious Echoes archives, Riley found a small handwritten note tucked inside a book of Rumi's poetry. It was in Elvis's distinctive script. Path is not a straight line but a dance. The light you seek is already within, waiting to be remembered. And when it shines, let it shine for all. Riley smiled. It was a perfect summary of everything she had learned. The journey wasn't about rigid rules or exotic destinations. It was about recognizing the inherent light within and then sharing that light with the world. She realized that the Harmonious Echoes weren't just about celebrating Elvis's enlightenment. They were about embodying it. They were about spreading that light quietly and consistently through their own lives. Clara, with her boundless patience and wisdom. Arthur, with his calm demeanor and meticulous research. Even the woman with the bright blue glasses who always offered a gentle word of encouragement. They were all living examples of the eternity Elvis had helped unleash. Riley found herself instinctively applying what she'd learned. The diner, she started humming softly as she worked, and noticed that her mood improved, and even the customers seemed a little friendlier. She listened more intently when her friends talked, truly hearing their concerns, offering genuine compassion rather than quick fixes. The concept of interconnection took on a deeper meaning. She saw how every interaction, every smile, every act of kindness was a thread in the grand tapestry of humanity. And she understood that by nurturing her own inner peace, she was contributing to the collective well-being. One evening after the weekly session, Riley lingered with Clara. "Clara," Riley began, it's amazing. All of this, I came here a few weeks ago, just bored, and now I feel like a completely different person." Clara smiled, her eyes twinkling. "That, dear Riley, is the true proof of Elvis's enlightenment. It's not just about what he achieved, but about the ripple effect of his achievement. He opened a doorway, and you, with your open heart and curious mind, chose to walk through it. What do I do with all this? It feels too big to keep to myself." "You live it," Clara said simply. "You integrate it into your everyday life. You continue to seek, to learn, to grow. And when the time is right, you share it, perhaps not with words at first, but with your presence, with your kindness." She paused, then added, "The Harmonious Echoes exist to keep that flame alive, to share the knowledge, and to offer a space for those who are seeking. You are now part of that. You are part of the interconnection, and your own journey of enlightenment has truly begun." Riley looked around the quiet room illuminated by the last rays of the setting sun. The old phonograph, the shelves of books, the simple cushions. It all felt sacred now. This wasn't just a place. It was a sanctuary. And she, Riley, the girl who used to feel like a soggy cracker, was now part of its living, breathing legacy. The journey of the king, the path of enlightenment, was now her own. And she knew with absolute certainty that her summer and her life would never be the same. The ripple had begun. The summer eventually gave way to fall, and Riley found herself back in school, but she wasn't the same Riley who had left for vacation. The mundane routines of classes and homework now held a subtle layer of depth. She saw the essence in the quiet focus of her classmates, the echoes in the rhythm of the school bell, and the revelations in the stories her teachers told. Her weekly visits to the Harmonious Echoes continued a steady anchor in her new life. She helped Clara and Arthur organize their growing collection of materials, from new articles referencing Elvis's spiritual curiosities to letters from people who had stumbled upon the eerie flyer and were now seeking answers themselves. The society was slowly, quietly expanding. Riley found herself drawn to helping newcomers, guiding them through their initial skepticism, sharing her own journey from cynicism to wonder. She talked about the hum, the hidden messages in songs, the profound words in Elvis's journals, and the incredible energy of the iridescent ring. Her explanations were simple, heartfelt, and rooted in her own experience. One afternoon, a new young woman, about Riley's age, showed up at Willow Creek Lane. Her name was Maya, and she looked nervous, a bit defensive, like Riley had been on her first visit. "So you guys really think Elvis Presley was like a guru?" Maya asked. A skeptical smirk on her face, Riley smiled. A genuine warm smile. "We believe he achieved enlightenment, and we have proof. It's here." She saw the familiar flicker of curiosity in Maya's eyes. Over the next few weeks, Riley took Maya under her wing, guiding her through the initial sessions. She watched Maya's skepticism slowly melt away, just as hers had. She saw the moment Maya's eyes widened when she felt the deep peace of the essence, the way Maya gasped when she read a particularly poignant passage from Elvis's private journals, and the absolute awe on Maya's face when she finally experienced the eternity meditation. It was in guiding Maya that Riley truly understood the interconnection, how the legacy of Elvis's enlightenment wasn't just preserved in dusty archives, but lived through the experiences of each new seeker. She was no longer just a student. She was becoming a guide, a thread in the continuing tapestry. The Harmonious Echoes wasn't a cult or a rigid organization. It was a community of diverse people united by a shared sense of wonder and a commitment to personal growth. They weren't trying to convert anyone, just sharing a path they believed in, a path illuminated by an unlikely beacon. Elvis Presley. Riley started applying the principles she learned to her own creativity. She'd always loved to draw, but now her sketches were more expressive, more vibrant. She started writing short stories, weaving in themes of hidden truths and unexpected awakenings. She even tried writing a few songs, not about love or heartbreak, but about the quiet beauty she found in everyday moments, trying to embed her own echoes of peace into the melodies. One evening, as the leaves outside turned brilliant shades of red and gold, Clara and Arthur called Riley aside. "Riley," Clara began, her eyes soft, "you have truly embraced the spirit of the Harmonious Echoes. Your understanding, your compassion, and your ability to connect with others. It is remarkable. This wasn't just a summer job. It was a calling." "I'd be honored," she said, her voice a little shaky. "Not about grand pronouncements or world-shattering revelations," Clara reminded her gently. "It's about the quiet work, the consistent dedication, and the unwavering belief in the human spirit's capacity for growth. It's about remembering that the King, in all his fame and glory, also sought and found a different kind of crown." Riley thought about her first day, the peculiar flyer, her cynicism. She had stumbled into something extraordinary, something that had transformed her from the inside out. The Blue Suede Mystery wasn't just a catchy phrase. It was a metaphor for the unexpected places where truth could be found, even in the life of a rock and roll legend. She had learned that enlightenment wasn't just for ancient masters. It could be for anyone, anywhere, even for a teenage girl feeling lost in her small town, and even for a global superstar navigating the complexities of fame. Path was universal, timeless, and as she now knew, eternally available. Life for Riley settled into a beautiful rhythm. School friends and her dedicated work with the Harmonious Echoes. She was still Riley, but a more centered, joyful version. The world hadn't changed, but her perception of it had. It was richer, deeper, filled with hidden harmonies and subtle currents of energy she now understood. The Harmonious Echoes became a quiet sanctuary in their town, attracting a steady stream of curious souls. Some, like Riley and Maya, became deeply involved, drawn by the profound personal transformation they experienced. Others came for a session or two, taking away a lingering sense of peace or a new perspective on a familiar Elvis song. Either way, the eternity of Elvis's enlightenment continued to ripple outwards, touching lives in myriad ways. Riley discovered new facets of Elvis's journey through her archival work. She found more of his cryptic notes, drawings, and even obscure book lists detailing his extensive spiritual studies. She learned about his quiet acts of kindness, his generosity, and his deep compassion for others, all hallmarks of a truly enlightened soul. It wasn't just the flashy performances that mattered, it was the quiet internal work that truly defined him. Proof of Eerie, once a bizarre acronym, was now a lived experience. Essence, the profound, undeniable peace that permeated the society's gatherings, and which Riley now carried within herself. Echoes, the layers of spiritual wisdom she found in every piece of music, every sound, even the silence between notes. Revelations, the understanding that true wisdom could be found in the most unexpected places, even in the private struggles of a public figure. Iridescence, the constant reminder that inner transformation had outward effects, subtle shifts in the world, reflecting an inner light, eternity. The enduring legacy of love and wisdom passed down through generations, continuously available to those who sought it. Riley eventually moved away for college, but her connection to the Harmonious Echoes remained strong. She became an online ambassador, sharing their message and their discoveries with a wider audience. She started a blog, subtly weaving in the principles of Eerie, sharing her journey, and inspiring others to look beyond the surface of life. She realized that the secret society wasn't about exclusivity or hidden knowledge. It was about discovering the open secret of human potential, the universal truth that lay hidden in plain sight, even in the life of someone as widely scrutinized as Elvis Presley. His enlightenment wasn't a magic trick. It was the ultimate act of self-discovery, a testament to the power of a dedicated heart and mind. Years passed. Riley returned to Willow Creek Lane whenever she could, always finding Clara and Arthur older, but still radiating their gentle wisdom. The Lion's Head knocker on the old brownstone still welcomed seekers, and the hum of the essence still filled the circular room. One day she stood at the microphone, Stan, now a respected member of the guiding circle. She was preparing to lead a session for a new group of curious minds, just as Clara had done for her all those years ago. She looked out at the expectant faces, some skeptical, some hopeful, all searching for something more. She smiled. "Welcome, dear ones," she began, her voice calm and clear, echoing Clara's own. "You've found your way here, drawn by a peculiar flyer, perhaps by a hint of a blue suede mystery. And tonight, we begin a journey that reveals the truth about a king." She paused, looking at the familiar crystal at the center of the room, shimmering with its subtle internal light. "Many believe Elvis Presley was just a singer," Riley continued, her voice resonating with deep conviction. "But we believe he was a master of harmony, not just in music, but in his very being. His life was a symphony, and his final act was one of profound peace. And the proof," she concluded, her eyes twinkling, "is truly eerie." She pressed play on the recorder, and a deep resonant hum filled the room, carrying with it the essence, the echoes, the revelations, the iridescence, and the endless eternity of an enlightened king. The harmony continued, unending, echoing through time, touching heart after heart, a timeless melody of peace, whispered by a voice that would never truly fade.